Hi everybody, it's Lori again and welcome back to my kitchen. I just got a couple of whole bone-in hams for sale, half price, that I just couldn't pass up. And today I would like to share with you one of my absolutely favorite recipes for canning ham. And what that is my recipe for ham and potato soup base. Now this is like super simple, you guys. It doesn't get any easier than this, and seriously, it doesn't get any more delicious than this. This soup is amazing as is, just opened from, open the jar, heat and serve it. Or if you want to take it up a notch, you can, when you open the jar to heat and serve, add milk or cream and maybe even a little bit of a cheese for a creamy, cheesy potato ham soup. But anyway, I'm going to let you know what I do to make this in my home. And as always, you guys, I always create my recipes so that it is easy peasy, all right? And I love to create things right directly in the jar instead of cooking them first and then putting them in the jar. There are a lot of recipes that, yeah, sometimes you do have to cook it first, but when soups are in play, I just like to assemble them right in the jar. And so I write my recipes, document them per jar. All right, so in total, I am going to be pressure canning. Most pressure canners hold a total of 7 quarts. And so my recipe today is for 7-quart jars of ham and potato soup. Roger will put the recipe up over here for you. For a total of 7-quart jars of Lori's ham and potato soup base, you will need 5 pounds of peeled and cut potatoes. Now I cut my potatoes just kind of into bite-sized pieces, all right? There's no magic about this. Just, think about a piece of potato sitting on your spoon and what's going to fit in your mouth. So cut them into bite-sized pieces. And then you're going to need approximately 7 cups of cut ham. And I like to cube that personally, but that isn't rocket science either, just however you want your ham. 7 cups of ham. And then you will need a medium to large chopped onion, and you will need some parsley. All right, that's all there is to it. And then to cover all of these ingredients in your jar, I do use ham broth. You can use broth or water, just your choice. If you have chicken broth on hand, go ahead and put that in here. The ham is going to kind of flavor the chicken broth into a ham broth. I do personally prefer to make my own ham broth. And how I do that is when I'm cutting the hams up, I place the bones, some of the skin, the large areas of fat. I place that all into a big pot and just cover it with water. Now, ham has such a distinctive flavor. I really don't feel like it needs any aromatics like celery or onions or garlic. Those things tend to really kind of cover up and hide the flavor of ham. Ham just has an amazing flavor all of its own. So, like I said, I just make a basic ham broth, which is just the bones, the pieces of skin, large areas of skin that I've cut off the ham, and the fatty areas. I place them in a pot, just barely cover them with water, and then I just boil it for a couple of hours. And if it evaporates away, I just add more water, okay? As it evaporates, it gets concentrated in flavor. So adding more water is not going to hurt it at all. So just do that for a couple of hours and you come up with an amazing ham broth, okay? All right, so I'm going to aim you down and we are just going to get started on loading up these wonderful jars with our ham and potato soup base. Now, in peeling and cutting your potatoes, I'm sure that most of you are aware that you should always have them directly in cold water, all right? Any potatoes that sit out and are exposed to the air once they're peeled and cut, they tend to turn dark or black, all right? So make sure that you have your peeled and sliced or cut potatoes in water. And I have allowed my ham to come to room temperature, and I've also allowed my ham broth to come to room temperature. And then, of course, my chopped onion is at room temperature. So we're working with all room temperature items. We are going to start with a room temperature canner also. So what I do to start is I just take my chopped onion and I just equally distribute it throughout all of my jars. It's approximately 2 tablespoons of chopped onions per jar, but I just kind of eyeball it. And medium to large, it just depends on how much onion flavor you want. You know, if you want a lot of onion flavor in your ham soup, go ahead and make sure that it's a jumbo-sized onion. Otherwise, a medium onion should do ya. Just going to equally distribute a little bit more throughout my jars here. Maybe add a little bit more to this one. All right, so we have our onion in there, and now we're going to take 1 teaspoon of parsley per jar. And parsley really doesn't add a whole lot of flavor, but it adds a whole lot of fun green flaky colors in there. And so I kind of do a heaping teaspoon. I like that color in my soup. All right, and after that is done, then what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're just going to layer our sliced potatoes and our ham into our jars. And then go ahead and layer in your ham, just kind of equally distributing. Go back around and add some more potatoes per jar. Now, if you want to, you can put all of your ham equally distributed throughout the jars and, or all of your potatoes first equally distributed. I kind of like to layer this one just because it looks kind of neat in the jar if you layer them. Kind of like a meat and potato lasagna in a way. Go back around if you have more space. Another thing that you can do is you can take and just kind of tap your jars just to settle your contents. Add a little bit more ham if you want. Oops, I just lost a chunk in between my stove and my countertop, guys. I'm gonna have to fish that out and toss it. What a waste of a good piece of ham, right? All right, I'm just gonna go around and kind of poke my fingers in there to settle my ham down. And I'm going to elect to just put a few more, like 2 or 3 or 4 more chunks of potatoes on top of that ham. I almost dropped a potato on the floor too. I have a case of the dropsies today, I guess. Or I'm in just too much of a rush. Sometimes when a person gets in a rush, you start dropping things too. All right, I have used up all of my ingredients pretty much, except for just a few extra potatoes. And like I said, this was just 5 pounds of potatoes. So to have only a few left over, that's not bad at all. All right, so I want to show you how I've got my jars filled at this point in time. You can settle them a little bit if you want. But the whole goal at this point in time is to have your ingredients come up to about that 1-inch headspace. Maybe I'll tip you up just a little bit here for this. Have your ingredients, your solid ingredients, your ham and your potatoes up to that 1-inch headspace, all right? See right up there. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and we are going to fill our jars with our broth. Now, before I start this, I want to explain to you that in filling these jars with the broth, what I like to do, because in the canning process, this ham is going to release a little bit of its own juice, so will the potatoes, and even though there's not very many onions in here, they do release a little bit of juice too. Plus, as it cooks, it does shrink down a little bit. So my solid ingredients are up to the 1-inch headspace, which is that ledge at the bottom of your screw-on bands. That's 1 inch. What I like to do is fill my solids to the 1 inch, but then when I'm filling my broth, I only fill to 2 inches headspace, right down here to the shoulder of the jar, all right? So my solids are above my fluid line when I start my canning process. And what this does is this allows the ham to add all of its juice as it cooks. It's going to add a little bit more juice to the jar. The contents are going to shrink and kind of settle down, and everything's going to come out at the very same ending headspace. All of your potatoes and ham will be covered by your juice at the end of the canning process, but I'm only filling my broth to 2 inches, even though my solids are way up at 1 inch. Okay? Now again, you can use the broth of your choice for this, or you can just go ahead and you can use plain water. You have enough ham inside of these jars that your water will become flavored with the ham flavoring. So it's just your choice what you want to use to complete filling the jars. And if you have ham broth but you don't have enough to completely fill all of your jars, what you can do is equally distribute your ham broth, the amount that you have on hand, equally distribute that through your jars, and then finish filling your jars with water. Okay guys, I started out with 3 quarts of ham broth, and you can see that I really don't have very much. So 3 quarts should be enough to adequately fill all 7 jars. All right, now just like any other canning process, actually, you know what? I'll lift up a jar and I'll show you, okay? Hopefully it can pick it up where that, yep, you see where the fluid level is? My solids are up to 1 inch headspace, but my fluid level is down at 2 inches headspace, because these will shrink, they will release more juice, and everything's going to come out the same in the end, all right, after that cooking and canning process. Show you another one here. See where my fluid level is? It's below the top of my solid ingredients. All right, so just like any other canning project, a clean wet washcloth. You do not need to use vinegar, just clean and wet, and wipe the rim of those jars well with your wet washcloth. just to make sure that there isn't any food particles on it and you have a nice clean sealing surface. And then we are going to place our lid and ring. Now I'm using my Superb canning lids today again, and I do like to leave these, when I'm screwing on my bands, I like to have a gentle touch with them. The Superb, the blue Superb sealing compound is a lot thicker than most other brands of lids these days, and because it's thicker, these lids have kind of a hard time venting out the jar. You know, how the air heats up and gets pushed out of your jar during the canning process. Well, these lids have a little bit of a difficult time because of their thick sealing compound. They have a hard time venting. So I treat them with a very gentle hand going into the canner, a little less than fingertip tight that we use for other brands. And then I gently snug them up coming out of the canner. Talking about my canner, I'm going to get that in place. Now we have room temperature soup and jars, and we have room temperature canner. And I'm going to get those in there. You can either choose to pressure can this soup, or you can hot water bath it also, all right? I'm going to choose to pressure can today. If you want to do pint-sized jars, you would just cut all of these ingredients, the measurements, in half. So, you know, like with the onion and the parsley, the onion would just be 1 tablespoon, or excuse me, 1/2 teaspoon per pint jar. And with the onions, it would just be 1 tablespoon per pint jar. And then, of course, you know, your ham and your potato amount would be half for 7 pints also. But anyway, let's get back to the times. If you're going to PC this, pressure can it, you will pressure can pints for 75 minutes, pressure can quarts for 90 minutes, or if you would prefer to hot water bath either size jar, pint or quart, for 3 hours. So I'm going to get my canner lid on, and over medium heat, I'm going to bring this to a vent. I will vent for 10 minutes and then I will place my weight. And once it reaches my appropriate pounds for my altitude, that's when I will start my timing of 90 minutes. And after that is all complete, I will come back and show you the amazing results. All right, guys, so I got through my pressure canning session, and I allowed my canner to cool down naturally. And after it was down to 0 pounds of pressure, I removed my weight. I cracked open my lid just a little bit and allowed extra time for cooling. Now I feel like it is safe to go ahead and remove my lid, and I'm not going to have any siphoning happening from the cold air, oh, they're already popping, air of the room rushing into the extremely hot canner. It's always important to allow extra time for your canner to cool down. These look absolutely lovely. Now, do you see what I mean about that headspace? The food shrank and the ham added just a little bit more liquid to it, and everything comes out equally in the end. All right, we'll get another one out, and those wonderful Superb lids. You can hear them popping. They have that old-fashioned loud pop when they seal. Such good quality lids. I just love the Superb brand. All right, and one last jar. Absolutely beautiful. Now, I allowed extra time for those to cool in the canner. And what I do with these Superb lids, I told you that I leave them a little looser going into the canner, and then I just gently snug them up coming out. These are sealing really well today, but when I say gently, I literally mean gently. Just gently snug them up. No picking it up, no holding the jar to really crank it. Just a very gentle snugging up. And that is how I use my Superb lids. You guys, these look absolutely beautiful. I am going to allow them to cool completely and seal. I'll probably allow them to cool overnight. And then tomorrow I'm going to come back and crack one of these jars of soup open so that you can see the texture of the potatoes. And I will also show you, how I said that you can level up by adding cream and cheese. I'll also show you exactly how I do that to make a cheesy, creamy potato and ham soup. So I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so my jar's sealed. I actually went ahead and washed them all up, and I have labeled them and gotten them ready for storage. But I do want to show you, about that fluid level to solid level. Okay, remember our solids were all the way up here at 1 inch headspace, and then I told you only to fill with broth to lower than that at 2 inches. And now you can see, guys, like I said, this stuff has shrank. The ham has released a little bit more juice, and now everything is pretty much at the same level. You see how that works out so wonderfully? It just works out beautiful that way. Okay, so today what I am going to do is I am going to show you how I how I really like to finish this soup, this ham and potato soup. We really love it with kind of a cheese and creamy base. Now, this ham and potato soup is absolutely amazing just as it is. You can just dump this into a pan and heat it as is. But my family really likes a cheesy, creamy type base, okay? So I just open up one of my quarts of soup and I get that into a pan on my stove. Make sure you can see what I'm doing here. Maybe tip down a little bit more. And then I add either a little bit of heavy cream or a little bit of milk. And I actually have canned milk, and this is another thing that I just want to touch base on. I want you guys to look at this date. All right, this is from June of 2021. All right, so we are over 3 years shelf life on this particular jar of milk. Now, what I really want to show you is I want to show you after over 3 years of sitting on the shelf, there is some separation going on here. And a lot of people would look at this jar and go, hey, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look very good. Can I eat that? Can I consume it? Well, I'll tell you what, pop it open and give it a sniff. If you do not smell anything objectionable, yes, it's good. Now, what I do in this situation when I have separation like this, because this is a layer of heavy cream that has separated out of the milk, and then it's kind of the whey, if you want to call it that, and then the milk itself. All right, just take and give this a shake to reincorporate all of that stuff. And there you are, guys. Beautiful. All right, I am going to open it and give it a sniff test. Got to find a ledge there. I should pop you down so you can see here. There we go. We had a swoosh. Oh, you guys, no smell at all. I mean, it just smells just like regular good milk. All right, there you go. Well over 3 years, milk on the shelf. Absolutely, I swear by it. Okay, but anyway, now let's get back to the recipe. For 1 quart of this ham soup, I generally will add a half pint of heavy cream, or if I'm using milk, I will add a full pint of milk. And so since I am using milk today, I'm going to use half of my quart. So approximately 2 cups of milk. All right. And then what I like to do is I usually add some of my home canned cheese. And I have, for some reason, I didn't realize that I was running low on my canned American cheese, and so I'm out of it. And so what I'm using today is I'm just using some Velveeta, okay? Just any creamy type of cheese, whether it be Velveeta or, like I said, American cheese or a cheese sauce. And I do have some cheese sauce upstairs, but it's nacho cheese sauce, and I don't want that in my ham and potato soup. So I'm just gonna add to taste cheese, and we are just gonna get this heated up over medium heat, stirring it occasionally so of course the cheese doesn't stick and the milk doesn't scorch, and get it heated up super good. And then I'll show you the wonderful creamy cheesy results. I'll be right back. I figured I would just slip this in as a little extra for those of you that watch my entire videos. I was just talking about Velveeta cheese, and I want to pass on to you just another little extra tip. Did you know that these Velveeta cheese boxes are very useful for canning lids? All right. Of course, you all know that I love the Superb brand lids. And the other day, Roger and Joshua went to Menards up in Twin Cities, and they had like a 15% off sale, and they so graciously bought me just a ton of Superb lids in these little tiny boxes. I don't care what brand of lid that you use. I'm just using this as an example, but you know, just a dozen lids in one of these little tiny boxes. And so when you have a whole bunch of these little tiny boxes of lids laying around, they're kind of, you know, they get lost, or they are taking up room, or they're, you know, slipping and sliding all over the place. I'll tell you what, guys, these Velveeta boxes make amazing lid storage for regular size lids. All right, you can open up a ton of boxes and just put your lids in here. They're all easy to grab when you're canning and whatever else. You can just snag them right out of there. You can put that lid right back on and just cut your box and put that you know, tape that label right on that Velveeta box. So there's your little extra tip today from Lori's Kitchen. All right, so my soup is obviously boiling away here over on my stove with my wonderful canned milk and some Velveeta cheese added to it. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off and ladle up a scoop of this beautiful soup. Try to get a little bit of ham in there so that I can show you what that looks like too. All right. You know me, how I like to really show you like the texture and the consistency of the things that I can. And so I will do that with you right now. These potatoes, because they were put in the jars raw, are firm. That one did kind of split on me. Look at, you can pick it right up with a fork. Guys, look at that beautiful potato. The same thing with the ham. You can stick a fork in it. It is not mush. The potatoes are not mush. Beautiful, beautiful consistency. And oh my goodness, you guys, we love this soup so much. This, you know, I know that I say it a lot that, oh, this is one of my favorite things. Honestly, this potato and ham soup is seriously at the very top of my list, especially because I'm lucky enough I can still eat dairy products. I know a lot of people can't eat dairy products. They're dairy intolerant, and I feel so bad for you. I really do. My heart just goes out to you if you can't eat dairy. I can still eat dairy. So with this heavy cream or milk and cheese in it, oh my gosh, you guys, it is so delightful with the ham broth. Oh, it's heavenly, heavenly stuff if I do say so myself. And what a better time to do it. Today we woke up and it was 19 degrees below zero, and now we are past noon and it's still 10 degrees below zero and the sun's shining. It's a clear sky, but it's cold. So soup like this is just so hearty. It's comforting, it's satisfying, it's filling. Oh, just wonderful. And so good. Yep, that's absolutely my favorite soup. All right. Well, anyway, so I guess that is just about all I have for you today concerning ham and potato soup. I hope you enjoyed spending your time with me today. Thank you for spending your time with me again today. God bless you all, and happy canning, everybody.